It is different. All right, do we have a quorum? Are we set, Grayson?
We're
still missing Joe, so-
we do have a
Yep.
quorum.
All right, so we're out of executive session and here in this part of the meeting, we are looking at the contract for the recovery coordinator. And the renewal of her contract. Do I hear a motion?
Right here. Motion to renew the coordinator's contract with an amended job description to include the involvement of the executive director.
Just
No, just an amendment, and increase the hourly rate to 10% above the current rate.
Do we hear a second?
second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, could we call a roll, please?
Betsy Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Daryl Stewart, Jamar Williams,
Yes.
Joe Everett,
I will abstain.
Sorry, Joe.
Liz Blackwell Moore,
Yes.
Maggie McLaughlin,
Yes.
Melissa Hackett,
Yes.
Pat Kimball,
Yes.
Paul Bensel,
Yes.
Megan LaRochelle,
Yes.
Ms. Parks,
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes,
Thank you.
All in favor, motion carries. Thank you very much. Don?
just in follow up to that, just, should they just, I don't want it to get lost, so should there be some discussion about, either in policy or practice of the council in general, a mechanism for reviewing contracts, 60 days or so, 90 days, whatever we think, before they expire to evaluate.
Yes, and I'm trying to think where that discussion should go. Should that discussion go with executive committee or should it go with governance? What do you think?
Government.
Start with governance because it's a procedure, it's a policy. So Paul, would you please add that to the discussion for governance? And we'll sort of make sure that it gets added and Todd, that way we don't lose that that important part of that discussion.
So review contracts,
A policy in regards to reviewing contracts before they're due. They're expired, didn't expire.
is
Yeah.
that strictly for contracts for personnel or would that include contracts for grantees?
I was thinking just personnel.
We're
you
looking
know,
at personnel right now,
Specific to the council, yeah.
because we're hiring somebody to do the grants.
Okay, great.
The other one that would be great is if we could have an action item, and I'm not sure where that one lives, because it's more of a one-off. And then data gathering regarding state job classifications and associated compensation.
Yes.
So that way we can review if we're in the right buckets.
I think Deb in the finance committee is doing something in regard to that. So I can remind the finance committee that to put that on their agenda, and if they don't think it belongs with them, they'll pass it back to us and we'll put it where it belongs. Great, thanks. Elizabeth, we are happy to say we have approved your contract. So you'll still remain a part of the team, which is a good news. And thank you for your patience.
Congratulations.
If you accept.
I know, I was like, no, I didn't.
I didn't give that option. Give that option. I didn't give that option. No choice here. I don't do well with change. Okay, quickly my report, and we have a lot of other stuff to get through. So I just want to quickly mention the Governor's Summit. The Governor's Summit is in Bangor this year and it's July 16th. Jesse and I talked about whether the council would do a session, but we really don't know what we'd do the session on. So unless anybody really feels strongly, we are not going to do a separate session, although the council will most likely be asked. I do know that there's going to be a session on be submitted, hopefully accepted, but it will be on the opiate settlement money and about efforts in coordinating those funds. And so there'll actually be, it's being submitted, talking about how municipalities are doing it, how the council is doing it, the AG's office. So it'll be sort of this, I'll know more later because there's a meeting on it next week. but the council will be part of that conversation. But if you have a need, if you think we have something to put before this summit, please let me know, but we've done it 3 years in a row. We did, the whole history, then we did where we were, then we did how the grants went. And so I really didn't see anything that took, what is it, a 45-minute slot? Or is it even more? I can't remember.
More. 70.
So again, unless you have any objections, because it's due March. I think it's, I can't remember, it's in the middle of March, the overview is due.
But it sounds like there will be some representation of the work of the council in another presentation. Am I hearing that correctly?
If it gets accepted.
Okay.
So Pat, this is Joe. I'm just at the last program and grants committee, as you remember, we talked about the great work going on. So Chastity, maybe if we could nudge some of our grantees to submit a proposal, that will be very meaningful. I think if with people heard from the actual people who received the money,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that may be happening, but just we had chatted
Well,
briefly.
I know that part of that group is gonna talk about the coordination. The Moss Center will be part of that, and they have some of the data, particularly on the municipalities and how that money filtered out. So they'll be part of that conversation too. All right, no other questions. The next item, although there will be a procedure on voting in vice chairs, but it's in draft form and the governance committee hasn't approved it to bring it here. I am asking today that both the finance and governance have recommendations for the co-chair of those meetings. And I'd like to be able to have a motion to accept Maggie McLaughlin as the co-chair for governance and Daryl Stewart for the co-chair of the finance committee.
I just want to clarify, vice chair.
Vice chair,
So,
sorry.
yeah, consistent.
Sorry,
and
vice
the
chair.
Current structure.
Yes, sorry, wrong word. Vice chair. So do I hear a motion that we accept?
Yes.
Seconded?
Second.
It's been
On the
seconded.
motion.
And can we call a roll? And just so you know, program grants hasn't decided yet. Next time. Can you call a roll, Elizabeth? Thank you.
Betsy,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
staying.
Yeah, we're abstaining.
Are you abstaining?
I probably should.
No, you can go.
Oh, abstain.
Oh,
Jamar,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Liz. Yes. Maggie,
Abstain.
Melissa,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Hess. Yes. Todd.
Yes.
Everyone in favor, motion carried. Thank you very much and welcome to the vice chairs. All right, and again, I am going to turn this over to committee reports and we'll start with governance. Paul, do you have a report?
Sure. I do. So the governance committee met on January 23. And what we discussed first is vice chair, and we discussed procedure for selection of vice chair. And what we're working on is how we did it in the finance committee, and then also we repeated on the governance committee, is that the committee chair asked for what if people were interested in doing it, and someone could make a nomination or someone could step up, or the committee chair could make a recommendation, and then work to get consensus from the committee. And then the committee would make a recommendation to the full council, and the full council would vote just as we did. We're not ready to submit that as a proposal yet. We're going to work on that on our next governance committee. Second is we discussed public agenda. So I asked, when the public agenda is made, how do I make changes? And it was pointed out just to add a line item in the agenda of new business, and then that would cover any changes that need to be made. We talked about public forums, and it's noted that in the bylaws, Article 4.2, the last sentence basically states that all regular meetings of council should be open to the public, and at least one must uh, allow for public comment or be a public forum. Since we allow public comment on all of our meetings, we really have a lot of leeway here. And what we came up with deciding was that we wanted to get advice from our stakeholders who might want to give comment of what they would foresee. And so Chastity is going to come up with a questionnaire for our stakeholders. And the questions would be for a public forum. Do we keep it as a status quo where we have a public forum once a year? Do we maintain the public forum but change it with greater structure and a specific theme? Do we remove the annual forum but maintain the open comment period every month? Also, do we talk about location? Do we have it shift around, which logistically is difficult, but we might be able to do it? And have at the end of the questionnaire, have an open-ended question of any other suggestions that stakeholders would have. So we're working on that to try to work on a public forum. The next thing we discussed was nominating bodies that, our terms for the Recovery Council all end in November. And 8 of us are not able to renew our terms. We are termed out. So we're going to need that our nominating agencies are going to need to nominate someone. And we talked about how to give them notice to do that. And the action item was that I'm going to be drafting a letter to the interested parties of just reminding them that they have to make a nomination. What I would do with each of those interested parties is state who currently is in the position from their agents that they have nominated, and whether that person is termed out or not. And so will they need to nominate a new person? The nominations are only good for 30 days, so we certainly want to ask it by the September or October region. And what we thought was we'd come out with two reminders, one being shortly after the legislature session ends, or shortly before, which was it? Shortly before or shortly after? Does anyone remember?
It was after,
Okay. And then again in September or October.
because we never know when it ends. That's a good thing.
And that letter, like I'll draft a letter, work with Chastity on that, and that will go out from Chastity so as a single source for that. Then we talked about onboarding new members. And we thought it would be really good that any new members would have a meeting before their first Recovery Council meeting with the executive director, the coordinator, and the council chair and Brendan to discuss the council, how it works, and what their individual roles would be in that. that would be some work on those people's part because there's going to be 8 new members. But they all volunteered to do that happily, so we were pleased. And then the last thing we talked about was any emergency or off-cycle grant funding. And it looks like the grant and program and grant committee did a lot of work on that this month. So I think we will leave that to them. Any questions on all that?
There's one.
Paul, just a quick question. I mean, with the nominating bodies and stuff, is it? I mean, I can't see this happening, but is it appropriate or allowable for the council to make recommendations to those nominators, you know what I mean? And when I say that, I don't mean individuals. I think I can't imagine a situation where we'd have a council that didn't have members who had lived experience, for example. You know what I mean? Or, you know,
Chastity,
go ahead.
Respond.
First, I want to clarify, it's 6 people who are termed out, not
Oh,
8.
okay.
He's kicking up to.
When I put in my resignation, the appointing body asked the council for a recommendation to fill my spot.
A name. Yeah, well, names are fine. I wasn't gonna go down that road.
Yeah.
But I do think it would be appropriate for us to have some, at least discussion around, if not a name, if we're asked, even if there's not a name and we have a need of a particular background or talent.
Yeah, and
we should
in
have
most
to-
cases, when there was an opening, usually the person who was leaving was asked, like when Chastity gave her resignation, they were asked if they had a recommendation.
I would just add, some of the nominating entities have parameters around who they have to, the kind of
Yeah.
individual they need
Yeah.
to nominate. So it would be, I would just suggest it's a reminder of that if there are certain.
Like the Attorney General's office he has specific areas. The 3 he nominates, they have to be specific areas.
The 3 subdivision seats are the basically open ones that will be coming up with no specificity. I can't even say the word right now.
This is a hard one.
It is.
But to your point, I appreciate you thinking about, because there are some seats that have like kind of really broad parameters, and we may have suggestions for a narrower parameter, like there's a seat that's like a prevention or treatment public health person. That's a pretty wide ranging, and like it may be that, you know, like right now, I think, I mean, there's some people who do prevention here, but you may want to narrow that, right, to something different. If we don't have if we lose a treatment provider, maybe it wants to be treatment. If you lose a prevention person, so I appreciate you naming that.
Yeah.
But we may want to give some suggestions that aren't names, but narrowing.
Paul and then Jess.
I believe, and Pat, you might know more of this, that one of the requirements is that at least one member has to be a treating physician.
The Attorney General is one of his appointees.
Okay.
Needs to be a treating physician working in the addiction field.
So one thing that's interesting is that since my retirement, we don't have anyone actively working in the treatment field.
Well, but you can't appoint either. You know, we can't appoint people midstream, I don't believe.
So the
The
recommendation
Attorney
will be-
General only has 3 appointments, and his 3 appointments are slotted.
It's a Senate seat, medical professional with MOUD experience. So it
Okay.
doesn't specify they have to actively be doing.
Okay.
You know, you can't get out that fast.
And-
You're stuck.
There's.
But I would recommend a medical professional that's younger.
They can only serve 4 years.
Experience.
All right, thank you, Paul, and we'll certainly, as things get closer, we'll look at that, because you have a nice makeup on the board now. We'd hate to lose that, the breadth of experience that we have, it would be too bad, but thank you. I'm gonna move on to,
Don't
Yeah,
somebody
just
else-
add one
oh,
thing.
let, Tess, sorry.
I think too, we have those set rules that are set out in the statute of guidelines for the seat. But I think if there are ways that we can brainstorm, if we know of individuals that have lived experience that also fall into those categories that would be interested in serving, I think that would be helpful, because sometimes I feel like I have this burden on my shoulders when I don't, like, I'm representative, but my experiences aren't always the other experiences of people that have been impacted by addiction, and I'm a firm believer that can be really helpful in the decisions that we make.
Tess, I think it's well put. There's a real, people with lived experience have a real, important voice. We have it because unfortunately, we've lost too many, so it's a very important voice, and I think that it's a good point to keep in mind and remind those who are appointing, that is an essential piece for us. Thank you. Anything else on governance? Other than that, we will move to finance. Deb is not here. Daryl, would you like to report, or would you just like to refer to her report that's in the packet?
I can just touch upon a couple of
Okay.
things. We did have the December numbers, included in the packet. The beginning balance was $30,604,715. We had negative revenues, almost 253,000. The negative revenues have to do with how we account for the DHS MOU of 355,000 that goes out as a transfer to DHS and shows up as a negative revenue. We had expenses of 257,958 with a final balance of 30,094,502. And there's some additional details there. During the meeting, we talked about that we're still working on the operating budget. As part of that discussion, Deb had mentioned that it would be helpful to probably work with the Programs and Grants Committee to develop an annual schedule for the RFPs, grant applications, contracts, and release funds. It would help the grantees understand what the timing was, but it would also help us as far as forecasting the budget information and financial information. And I don't know if that's been previously discussed or not. And then I was mentioned, Tess had mentioned having a discussion with the MRC about what the plan is, basically to continue funding for grantees whose contracts are starting to roll out. And then we talked about me, which was kind of uncomfortable.
It was a good conversation.
So that's about it.
Questions on the finance committee?
Questions for you there.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to answer.
Don't worry, if you can't, it's all right. The obligations by year, where was she project, are those like, I'm blanking, do we have a 5-year grant or anything that goes out that far? Where are those coming from? The ones that are future forward, because I thought most of our grants expired within the next year and a half.
Yeah, I think they're coming from the spreadsheets.
Prevention.
Might be a prevention.
Prevention goes out.
I think some of that also comes from Ben, the former treasurer, would keep a like running budget that projected quite a few years out based on the average amount that the council was giving out each year. I don't know if that's where she took the information from, but there is, she got it from that spreadsheet of Ben's that projected out.
And then one of the main things that we were hoping for would be magic, if Daryl, you can whip it out easily in the back of your mind in 2 seconds, the way things always work and balance of time that is not there. Was expanding on like what would the impact be for recurring costs, particularly for the recovery centers and the SSPs. And how that would affect the pipeline. So I don't know if that's on the agenda for the next one, but if not, if it is possible, that would be informative for programming grants.
I wasn't able to make the last meeting.
It was a good one too.
I bet. I think it would be helpful along the lines that we just heard, that to revive the document that revive the document that Grayson was referring to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The long term, here's what's the big number, here's how we stretch it over 18 or 19 years, whatever it may be, because those numbers have changed. I think for me, that would help put things into perspective, especially if we're gonna start making decisions about renewing grants, extending, things out. It'll give us a better idea. I think it would help with some of our upcoming discussions as we plan for emergency funding and,
Yeah, I think what you're gonna find in the end results with this is you'll have a combination of both. You'll have the projected revenues of what we have and how that allocated that Ben gave us, that long chart that was there. Plus you will have a detailed budget of what the expenses of the council are as to what we have promised when those, so you'll have much more of a clear picture financially where we are and where that money is. Again, I'm one of the things that I'm so looking forward to. Again, we will have an actual budget, so we know what to carve out for the council to function. But then we'll know how much money is out there so we can get it out into the community. And we'll have a much clearer picture on that once we get that budget developed, as well as keep reviving Ben's projections out.
I think it would be helpful for the public as well, right, along with what you're saying, when I look at this number, 30,604,000, as compared to, it makes it sound like we have $30 million to just commit.
Correct.
And which we may well do, but previous discussions was how do we make that money last, right?
Correct.
With future money coming in and interest and all those other variables there, so I think it would accomplish a couple of things, like you said, it would bring us up to date on where we are, what we have, and help folks understand what the future may.
Correct, and what we've promised. Because we've promised, we've got contracts out.
Right.
So we have to know of that final balance that says 30 million, how much of that is promised money? So. Right, thank you. Any other questions for finance? If not, we're gonna move on to program and grants. Joe.
Thank you, Pat. So we met on January 27th and had a pretty full agenda, the Program and Grants Committee. And we started with a presentation by Brittany Chen and Ben Wood from HRIA, which was fantastic. So Ben and Brittany talked about sort of their scope of work they've been doing with us for quite a while now around designing an equitable prevention-focused grant-making process for our prevention work, supporting community coalition work that improves conditions preventing opioid and substance use disorder, and providing applicants capacity building support and pre and post-award support. Really interesting information. They presented information, their findings around the key inform interviews that have been going on, and gave some detail about that you can read in the notes. And they also then talked about what's next. So they will be coming back to the Program and Grants Committee at this month's meeting to begin to talk about the RFP materials and the timeline. They'll bring that back. We'll bring that to this full council in March, and they're hoping to have the RFP released in mid to late April, and that contracts could be executed by July or August. I raised that seemed ambitious, and I hope we get this money out the door before our terms end and before the council changes in November. Chastity, since you've been really involved, anything you want to add from Brittany and Chen in this work? Or Brittany and Ben? That was pretty high level. They've been doing a lot of work.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's a ton more to add to it. We have them on the agenda for the next program and grants too, which is more of a, if we need it, if they need to come back and gather more information. But I'm really, really hopeful that we will be able to stick to the timeline, because they have been great.
And I think their full PowerPoint, you've got, everyone got a copy of their full PowerPoint.
Yeah. They're very impressive. It was very good.
And once they do all of this work for us on this one, we just have to recreate it to do the 2 gen work, so.
Great.
I like how easy you made that sound, Chastity. We just have to replicate it.
Either. Joe, anything
Fingers
else?
crossed.
Okay, keeping going in the spirit of grant making, our very own Todd Brackett did a great presentation on one-time non-recurring funding, which has been sort of on our radar since the beginning of the council days, almost 4 years ago. So he did a great presentation. There was a robust conversation of what that would look like, sort of maximum dollars, minimum dollars, the need to be sort of fast, that people would need to get funded fast. So one of the takeaways is that Deb Poulin and I will be bringing back, and we're going to try to get it out to the full council before the DHHS Office of Behavioral Health does a RAP fund. They make RAP funding available, a kind of a funding of a last resort to folks with behavioral health needs in Maine. TOA actually administers that for our region. So Deb and I are going to put together sort of a framework that they use, and it's very interesting in that the organizations who have the contract to manage the funds actually have decision-making groups. So we have a local group of providers that weigh in on all the applications. So we're going to get that out to folks. We'll bring it back to the group. But just in theory, is the council supportive? Do we want to have any more conversation about that concept? Anything people want to add? Anything you'd want us to discuss further about those? Or Todd, do you want to add anything as someone who's championed this since the beginning?
No, not really. Thank you, Joe. I just think it's an important process that we should consider, and this is just an example of the way it could work. I like the conversation we had, and hope that the council agrees that, we should continue to work on some process.
So the draft is in your packet, and I'm asking for the sake of time and also Brendan's advice, that if you review it and if you have some comments, if you're not on programs you grant, that you go through Chastity, send Chastity some of the suggestions you may have, and then Chastity will make sure that it gets back to programs and grants.
Perfect. And you're all welcome to join the meeting in a couple of weeks at our program and grants committee where we'll continue the conversation. Moving right along. So Chastity presented a no cost extension policy. This sort of was the theme of the group, that we want that to be as flexible as possible for fundees or grantees. We know that often the money doesn't get as perfectly. We prepare proposals that don't actually play out the way the proposal gets presented. So we're going to work on that. And I think Chastity will be bringing that back for a final review. Is that a fair statement?
We're gonna vote on it during Chastity's
We've
report.
got it.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect. That's awesome. Great. And then just exciting, at the end of the meeting, Amber shared about the Northern Maine Wellness Clinic that's opening in Van Buren, which was great, which led to a conversation about all the great work that's happening with the grant funds that we've made available. So that's why I raised that at the summit, if hopefully some of the grantees can present their work. And I think that's it. And then the last item, we tabled the co-chair conversation for the sake of time, but that'll be on the agenda for this month's meeting. And that's it for Program and Grants Committee.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for program grants?
Point of information, appreciate the triaging, the discussion about the small funding policy. I just want to make sure that what's in our packet says off-cycle funding policy. Are those one and the same or different?
What?
So in the packet, there are multiple policies.
Yes.
So they're all there just so people
Yeah, but what's it
knew what
called?
they were.
I think that's her question.
I just want to make sure that if we have feedback, we're providing it on the correct document.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a little bit of confusion, so others may as well. So there's three different things that have been floated around. I had put in one for emergent funding. Todd, you had put in for small funds. And then there was also a lengthy discussion about maybe working with a third party contract to set up buckets.
Okay.
So is this something that we're gonna be reviewing again in program and grants? Okay, so none of this is
Yeah,
like set.
these are only drafts, and the
Okay.
reason they're here is that if other council members have input after they read these, they can please just put that, and give that to Chastity, and Chastity will make sure that the committee sees that. This is just giving other council members who aren't on programs and grants, but you're right, there's three things in play here. There's the policy that Todd's talking about, the small grants, there's the emergent funding grant, and then there also is the discussion, which we'll probably have in joint with finance, about whether it's easier to take the money and put it into another foundation for them to handle particularly the small grants. Todd?
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, it's not really three, it's just two. Right, you have the policy that we have prepared, and then you have the buckets and the small. Was the way we discussed it was a similar discussion, right? We put those set buckets of money aside for specific things in the pillars. Using an outside contractor to provide that, smaller type grant kind of situation. That's my recollection of it, Tess, is that I can understand why the confusion, but that's kind of the direction the conversation went at programs and grants, would seem to make sense to me.
And then the item that Joe and Deb will be working on.
Yeah,
Is that combined within that?
sort of another idea than that, like they were saying, instead of doing, if we gave the money to a foundation to do it, that's one way to do it. The other one was Deb and Joe, we're gonna go see how the state does it. And is that possible for us to do? Is that right, Joe?
Yeah, so I would just say thank you, Tess, for raising your question. I think we have to either like synthesize to Todd's, not to put words in your mouth, Todd, but like it comes down to like one idea I think is for people. That's the Deb and Joe, what we're doing. So the grant, the RAP funds are for individual people. And then I think, Todd, you were thinking more about organizations or maybe people. So I think that the work of the committee next month, I think, is to sort of see where there's like parallels and if it is the same kind of policy slash procedure that could be used for both. And then I think it would be outsourced, to Pat's point, that we would look for someone to do that. But that's, I think, what I'm thinking for the next meeting is sort of just looking where things are similar and looking at where things are different. And we have limited capacity, so I don't want to make more work than we can.
Yeah, just given the complexity of this, I would just say, it sounds like a suggestion might be that if people want to continue to engage in the conversation, they come to the next program and grants meeting. Just given how much is in the works.
You're always welcome.
I just want to add complete transparency. That's why we included all of them, because that program and grants meeting, for myself, I left and my first thought was they were all talking about completely different things. So.
Yeah, it's funny, I didn't get that at all. There were different ideas about the same thing, right? So
But maybe mapping it out.
there are several different ways to get there. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
But first you have to decide where it is you're getting, and then you can decide the route. But first we have to decide what exactly is that.
For me, the priority has got to be for small, whatever that is, and the criteria, get it out the door. That and state contract are not synonymous in my mind, right? Now, I don't know about these wraparound, so, you know what I mean, but.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism, that's just the process, you know what I mean, that's just the way it goes, but. How we do
So I
it.
left the meeting with my usual concern about capacity. I think that, Todd, to your point, it's hard to turn it around like in a timely way. So we'll work on this and I'll put together some of my thoughts for the next meeting and get it out to folks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Joe. If no other questions, we'll move quickly to the school committee.
Well, we're still on program grants.
Okay.
Let's just
Oh, sorry.
do the no
Oh, you wanna
cost
do the vote?
extension. Yeah.
Okay.
So the no cost extension policy, we've talked about it in program and grants, and we took the suggestions from there and implemented them in here for the timeline to be a little longer, so we don't think she's coming back to do it. So 6 months, a year, people need to extend out. And things will just get sent into staff. It is
After the funding cycle.
Yeah. It'll get sent to us and there's an attached form that grantees have to fill out, justify why they're asking. And we can, the executive director can approve it, and then we'll do the amendment. If it's something that's not simple, it's a like little more questionable, then we'll bring stuff back. But for the most part, this should be really simple for what we've been hearing from folks so far.
So all it is to extend contracts who haven't spent all their money. And rather than ask them to send it back to us, giving them the opportunity to share with us why the money wasn't spent, what they intend to do to get that money out. And then we can just extend their contract at no cost to them, none to us. But again, it's just, sometimes things don't go as planned. Sometimes you'd like to get this done in a year and you find out it's a year and a half and you don't want to just say, well, you didn't do it, we want the money back. So this way is just an opportunity for them to report back to us why the money wasn't spent, how much longer they would like to have that, and what they intend to do to ensure that what they promised in the contract gets done. And it's a very simple form. If you look at it, there's the procedure, and then the form that they have to fill out is pretty simple.
Question? Oh, go for it.
Go ahead.
Question for Chastity. This all looks really good. On the review and approval section, first, I'm interpreting this only as guidance, so if we were to deviate from what's written here, that's fine. So to a certain extent, like, not super worried about the fine wording, but verbally, from what I understood, you would just approve them if they were usual run-of-the-mill situations, but it's only unusual run-of-the-mill situations that would come to us. Not entirely confident the language that we have right here reflects that per se, because it just says staff will review the applications and provide them for, and it doesn't say like provide them to, or whoever. So it just says provide them for approval. So it implies that providing them to somebody, which implies the body. And then it says applications that require modification may be shared with the full council for review. I would assume any amendment equals a modification. So I'm very comfortable leaving the decisions on the amendments completely with you, and then reserving space for you to use your judgment to ask for guidance from the council on it, but that it's ultimately in your hands and not the council's hands. Unless you don't want that.
No, I think it's fine. The modifications, I'll just specify, like, that's thinking of like changing the scope of work or,
Not the amendment itself.
Yeah.
To extend time. Maybe just a little minor wordsmithing.
Other questions? If you're comfortable, do I hear a motion that we accept this policy?
So moved.
Guidance.
Guidance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the Maine Recovery Council guidance on requesting non-cost extensions? If not, Elizabeth or Grayson, can you call the roll, please?
Steve Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Gerald Stewart. Yes. Mar Williams.
Yes.
Joe Everett.
Yes.
Ms. Blackwell. Maggie McLaughlin.
Yes.
Melissa Hackett.
Yes.
Pat Kimball.
Yes.
Paul Vinsel.
Yes.
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion all in favor, motion carries. I thank you all very much. Melissa, do you have a report from the school?
Yes, so we are looking ahead to our third meeting with participants we invited to engage in that work group. Liz and I are leading that. The next meeting is the 27th. I'm not sure if we've noticed that or not yet, so I can follow up.
If you could get me an agenda after the meeting, I'll.
Yes, yeah, can do. So the agenda for the next meeting, just for a point of reference for other folks, is really to try to kind of put a finer point on some of the discussion we've been having about providing recommendations back to the council and the use of funds, particularly priority strategies. We did have some discussion about strategies, but we'd like to refine those a little bit, add a little bit more detail to them before bringing them back to the council, as well as recommendations around the RFP process and considerations for what would constitute highly impacted communities. So those are kind of the points of conversation to have further discussion about at the next meeting so that we can bring back more refined recommendations for consideration for the council.
Question.
Is there a way that council staff could notice to all of us the other meetings? It's like, for instance, I'm not on finance committee, but I get a notice like, this meeting's happening if you wanna join. But I never get that for schools. Is there a way that we can just be aware of when, other than going to the website, like a
Yeah, we can do
Two
that.
things, yeah, we can send out a link to the full council for the school committee meetings. Like you said, we do typically do that for the full meetings, but since this is a work group and not a committee, we weren't sending it out to everybody. You also, there's a spot on the council website where you can sign up to get all the emails that come out.
even better.
You don't want one.
It's really, it's not a time, it's literally
Yes, just the
meeting
notices.
notice.
Questions?
Any other questions? All right, well, Melissa, thank you very much and good luck with, we look forward to seeing how that money gets allotted. Staff reports, we're going to have a contract review, unfortunately, to terminate a contract.
Last week, Lifeline for Maine LLC, recovery residents in, is it Farmington? No, I'm blanking. Livermore Falls, general area. They reached out, they closed the house, they hadn't been able to hire for it. The contract's $20,800, so one of our smallest, and wanted to terminate their contract. The contract termination language that we have, only the council can choose to terminate, so we need you, with the exception of for cause. So we're gonna need to vote on that, but they've been trying for a while to fill this position, and for house manager, haven't been able to, and just closing it in. So it's all ending on good terms. They did not spend a single dollar and want to send it back to us, but we need a vote to terminate effective immediately from all of you to officially close that out.
Again, this was at their request, not ours. So do I hear a motion that we terminate the contract for Lifeline of Maine LLC?
Yep, sure.
Effective immediately.
And do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we need coffee at this meeting. And any other further discussion? If not, Grayson, will you call a roll, please?
Betsy Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Darrell Stewart, yes. Marl Williams,
Yes.
Joe Everett,
Yes.
Maggie McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Melissa Hackett,
Yes.
Pat Kimball,
Yes.
Paul Vinsel,
Yes.
Tess Parks.
Yes.
Todd Brackett.
Yes. Motion carries with regret. I wish they could have been more. I am, because it's some other things to do. I know that this seems little, but there's $20,000 out there that went to recovery homes. So let's let Chastity maybe come up with some clever ideas, think what we can do to put that money into recovery residents. That's where it was going. But we have it. We might as well see if we can maybe make an addition to some of our other contracts or something with that money. Maybe? No?
Sorry.
Anyways, we'll further discuss it. It's $20,000 that we thought was going out to recovery residents, and let's see if we can.
Well, it has gone out. It has gone out. They've had the money.
They had the money and it's coming back. So
So it'll be returned to the recovery fund. Yep.
all right, thank you.
That for votes we definitely need, right? Yes.
All right. Chastity.
Last meeting, you all asked for some information, I'll pull up my own. On the landscape of recovery centers in regards to state funding and our own funding. So I got some of that together for you. PRCC, the hub, I reached out to them following the meeting to get started with the full list instead of asking all the different, like, where are you? Are you operational? What year did you open? So they did provide a list and slide. This very first one, it shows, I know it's small, that part's in the packet.
It's in the
Yeah.
packet, so it's in the- that-
It includes each center, the organization they fall under, the town and county they're in, year established. If they got the state funds in the RFP process, if they did not, if they have funds from us, what is it for? It's just because they have funds from us doesn't mean it's necessarily for the recovery center. That's just like the big picture all there on one page. But as we go through, some of this is gonna be easier to read, not on that chart. I know. So you can go to the next one. Sorry, I'm switching myself, thinking you are. So what we currently fund for recovery centers, we have the Recovery Wellness Institute in Scottsbluff County. That will be our first contract that's gonna end, and it ends in August. We have Larry Labonte Recovery Center, MIRAP Access Center, Franklin County Recovery Center, the Inspire Center in Ellsworth, and Kennebec Behavioral Health. I think that's Skowhegan.
I think so.
Yeah. So of all of them, it's 2.38 million that we have been given, we have for them over the next 2 years. Go to the next one. Deb gave us some information for this about the state RFP process. So in the first round, there were 19 proposals that were received, 16 were scored, 3 disqualified for various reasons of just not following the policies and procedures. There were 7 awards and 1 sole sourced award to Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness. The awards are listed above. Multiple of them are places we do fund in one way or another, whether it's for the recovery center or for something else. The second round, 12 proposals received, 11 scored, 1 withdrawn, and 6 awards. Those are listed there. It doesn't look like as much because AMHC is 4 of the 6 awards. They have 4 centers in different parts in Aroostook and Washington County. So the bulk of what you all want, the next one, is what wasn't funded and what they requested. So the centers that were not funded by the state, there's 8 of them. There's a couple that it's like an asterisk. There's some information, extra information you're gonna wanna know here. So the ones not included in that funding, Coastal Recovery Support Center, Franklin County Recovery Support Center, First Mile Active Recovery, RWI, Save a Life, VOA, peer-to-peer, and an Angel's Wing. And these are all mostly rural and across the whole state. The full amount not funded over the 2-year period, 3.84 million. If those other numbers matter to you, great. If not, I just broke it down a little bit more. Yep, the next one. So of each of them, all those ones not funded, the top number is what they requested in the state RFP process. The bottom number in parentheses, all of those are, they applied to us when we had our application process last year, well, just over a year ago now, and is the amount they asked us for. Franklin County is we are funding them for the recovery center at $200,000 through May 27. Recovery Wellness, and we're funding them. The 2 with the asterisk, BOA, the Project Connect, and peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer, They have been closed. PRCC said they have kept them on their list because they're looking for a new space in Millinocket and they just hired an executive director. So I have not spoken to peer to know where they are in that, whether they are operational or not. And BOA, they are like in the process of giving everything away right now to close that space down. It was just earlier today, I saw another one of their posts about it, and it was because of funding and not getting the state RFP. Important to note with that, we fund a separate project with them, and they are trying to, they've been struggling to hire for that project we fund, and they haven't spent any of the money since they got it last spring. So that's just so you have all the like all the information that I have. RWI, they did not apply to us in our application, but that figure I put there is just what their current contract is that's getting ready to end, minus what we gave them for capital expenses to buy the building.
RWI is recovery wellness, right?
Yes, okay, just
I know there's different like organizational.
It's the one in
incentive
it's the one in Sangerville.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to match them.
Just a quick question, Chastity, is it, so these are, I wanna make sure that these were state funded other than the asterisks?
These ones on this slide, none of them are getting the state.
So like the VOA, I'm assuming that's all money that's expended, none of that money's coming back. Right, because I heard you like say the VOA center's closing.
Well,
So
that money
that's-
right there, the top figure is what they requested from the state and did not get funded.
They didn't get funded.
The bottom number is what they requested from us in November 24 and did not get funded. Just so you would have a ballpark of what the centers are asking for to operate. And each of these numbers are for a 2-year period.
It looks like, I thought the note said that we funded their recovery residents through 2026.
Yeah, but
Different
it's
program.
a separate project.
Okay,
Yeah, not 600.
These are just the peer centers.
that helps me understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are just the peer centers, not the other ones.
And to be clear, because you named the ones that withdrew or were not eligible from the state process. So for all intents and purposes, they just went through the RFP process and didn't get awarded
You mean that
for the state funds that they applied for, these folks.
These are all the ones that applied and didn't get awarded.
Okay.
I believe peer-to-peer is the one who withdrew.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand, if any of those carried over to here.
So as far as what we understand to be operational, all but peer-to-peer and VOA at this moment.
So the reason that I thought that the council should know what's happening in regards to peer centers, because they're vital to a lot of rural communities. And in most cases, well, in all cases, they have recovery coaches there, which have no cost for people to get the services from a recovery coach, a trained certified recovery coach, as well as they are often a safe haven for people in rural communities where there isn't any. And so I wanted the council to have a full picture, and I appreciate Chastity sharing that whole piece of what happened when the state didn't have enough funding to meet the need of the communities.
Bye, Brendan.
And so, hi Brendan, so I'm just gonna share with you a personal piece of a council member that I see. My major concern, I'm concerned about all of them because your centers are, I just think, a soul. They're just so important to a small community. This council invested a great deal of money into recovery wellness communities to purchase a building and to give them enough funding for 2 years. And their funding runs out in August. If you look at all the other recovery centers that we funded, they have another year left on their funding. I would like to have the conversation, and if I'm all wet, I'm just one council member, that we talk about looking to fund possibility the Recovery Wellness Center for another year, put them in the same category when we open up the grants again to be able to apply. But most likely they will close unless something happens. And we have a lot of money invested. We help them buy a building. I don't think the Recovery Council wants to have an old church in Sangerville. And the chances of selling it are probably far and few between. But for me, and again, it may be, I'm all wet and I'm only one person on the council, but I'd like to have that conversation about extending money to a center that we've already invested a lot of money in. And that's just an open conversation.
I couldn't agree more. Question is, how do we do it? Is there a way to do it? I mean, can we use, maybe the policy that we're working on, you know, this emergent funding things, whatever it's called?
They have an existing contract with us. So we could go and extend that contract. What we'd need to know for me is, what kind of money are you talking about? They need to submit a budget as to what they would need to stay open another year.
Well, that's what that amount, the 342, 194, that's what they submitted.
Yeah.
To the state in the RFP, so like, we know what each of them are trying to get for 2 years. It might not be perfect, but we have the rough idea.
I'm just gonna continue to be a stickler for process and say, agreed, and I really want us to have a process because there's a fairness piece to me if we're ad hoc considering requests and how we fund those. For the other folks that didn't get awarded any state funding, what does that mean for them?
Correct, but none of those have a current contract with us, nor have we invested any of our money in.
I'm with you on the rationale, I'm just saying the rationale is just
Yeah.
our group thing, it's not like a policy that we've worked out.
Yeah, and again, part of me knows this process well enough that if we open it up, we have to decide how much money we have, then we go through the grant process. By that point, it will be August or later, and that recovery center will be closed.
We did it once since I've been here for another one, and I'm also so uncomfortable with it, but I understand in this circumstance and will support in this circumstance.
I mean,
But there's a slide that we were just hinted at that I feel like also can provide a view
Correct.
that will help with a comfort level with
Yeah.
a pathway to the future. So I don't know if we could progress that slide, but
But you can, but I do, and I do need to say publicly, the Wellness Center has not asked us for anything. They have not made a request. This was just me.
I mean, they've reached out
Yeah.
to us and
Say they're
informed
broke.
us that if they don't get anything, they will be closing on our contract.
I think there's enough discussion we've had to date or opinions here right now to ask for a formal request from them and then vote on it at the next meeting in order to make sure we meet the timeline of amending their contract. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Is that a motion?
Well, I think that's
I think
outside of
that's
what's
what
here,
I
though.
said.
I will say we're speaking specifically to one center, but this slide speaks to like how we would
This
more
slide
globally
speaks to more.
deal with the ones that didn't get state funds.
That's you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is too soon to interject this at this point in the conversation. But I would be curious on if the council was amenable to it and wanting to do this. Of getting a budget from the centers that have not received state funding to get an idea of what that would look like.
So you're suggesting that any of those centers that were listed, that we asked for a budget from them?
Rather than assume the funding amount is.
Yeah, because I don't know what was in their budget, so I don't know if we asked them to request a budget, whether they'd produce it. Maggie and then. Melissa.
I would like to get to that place. I think it would be stronger for us to have finance committee give us that pipeline first. And then as program and grants vote on that pipeline, or at least initiate that vote and send it to full council. Because I would hate to ask all of them to go through that work of refining their budgets or whatever, if we only are offering 100K or something like that. So I'd like to make sure what we're asking for is aligned with what we have to offer in that longer one. But I think I'm also quite hopeful that we're gonna be in a place where we can treat this as a block group and support in a general process as opposed to a competitive process per se.
I'm gonna go to Joe and then to Tess, back to Tess.
So I think that I like where we're going with this. I do think that the council and why I support a bigger conversation. I think we have to talk about the future of the recovery centers and who's going to be the primary funder.
Yep.
I think that I love this work. I think it's really important. I don't know what the will of the group is, but I think that it's going to be very challenging if there's no commitment from the state to fund these projects.
Right.
Not to be Debbie Downer. In theory, I'm supportive, but I just wonder about the future.
I absolutely agree with you, Joe. The sustainability, it's sort of like, sometimes it's sort of like the warming centers, they're always, who doesn't agree that we need warming centers and they're so underfunded and, it can be, it's overwhelming and the state needs to step, at some point, put some money into it, but this is where we are. But thank you, Joe. I totally understand. Tess?
Yeah, I would just say that one of the reasons why I started bringing up the off-cycle funding was knowing recovery centers will close. They are closing, more will close. So I just want to put it again on the record that I'm advocating that we take action. And I understand we need discussions, we need processes. But we have amounts. We have these centers, 2 of them are closed. We know that more will close. The state effective funding date was January 1st. We're now 40 days in. The longer we delay, more centers will close. So I would love to see us somehow come together on this issue, because when you're in a community like, say, Save a Life in Penobscot, they were open in 2021. I visited their center many times. They're a pillar in their community. I cannot stress, as a person that has worked for recovery centers, used a recovery center to get better, will be a tragedy, every recovery center that closes. And I would just feel remiss to not say that again on the record.
Yes, Save a Life is like, and they were hired a grant writer once and still didn't get the grant. It's just been.
Can I offer something that I think speaks to lots of points that were made? We have, whether it's been an explicit request or not, an immediate opportunity on the table with somebody who already has a contract. Presumably that would be easier to figure out because they already have a contract. We have other folks for whom that's not the case, but we also want to consider. I think there's some very tangible options for what the council could do. And I would support it going back to program and grants to say, which of these would that group propose the council support? So it's tangible. We're not relitigating the whole question. It's like we have an immediate opportunity with RWI, right? That's what the Recovery Wellness Community Center. And then we have other recovery centers that are going to be impacted by lack of state funding. And we have some options on the table. So can the program and grants consider and then come back to the full council with a recommendation about that? That is what I would propose for.
I would add to that you had to add finance in there. Just so we know how much money we have or don't have.
At least we've got a budget. Sorry. We've got numbers here, so at least those numbers can be entered into that pipeline. I'd say those numbers we haven't asked them if that's still what they want. And so we do it with like a variance of 20% or 10%.
I would support what Melissa's saying if we can make it an agenda item to take action on at our next meeting. We wanna report
Agreed.
back at our next meeting, we wanna take action on it at our next meeting. And if we don't have a process in place, we still need to take action at our next meeting.
Agreed.
Either vote it up or down, but we should take some action.
And is that on a full proposal or just on
RWI.
RWI?
Oh, so separate items.
Yeah, two separate items,
separate
both-
items.
both come back to the full council for the next.
But with RWI, in the meantime, asking for a clarification up there.
Ask them for budget.
Yes.
Paul, sorry.
I like where this is going, and I think we need to act as quickly as possible. I agree with Tess that the more any delay, and these places are going to fold, and recovery centers are so important. We need to take action in March at our meeting, and not just on RWI, but on all of the centers that didn't get funding.
I don't know what that motion is that I said that others have said and added to, but if anybody would like to offer the words to it, that's.
Does it have to be a motion?
Doesn't have to be a motion.
Okay,
It's an action, it's an action
Okay,
step.
great.
We're gonna take action and move this forward. So at the March meeting, we have a proposal to put together to be able to move forward. I just
Can
can't.
you just repeat back to me, like, the full action to make sure we're all on the same page?
Say that again.
I just want someone to repeat
So
back
the-
what the full action next step is,
So
so we're all on the same page.
Multiple.
I believe that we're going to ask the recovery to submit a budget to us. That if we funded them for another year, how much money would they need? What would that budget look?
Just RWI.
Just RWI. The other ones we would look at to then the other centers that didn't get funded. Are we asking for a budget from them?
No, we're asking.
Okay, we're asking programs and grants to come up with a way for them to possibly apply, whether that's considered a grant, an application, whatever, some process for program and grants to look at the funding for the other centers that didn't get funded by the state.
I think I was suggesting that program and grants looks at these 4 options and comes back to the council with a recommendation.
Okay,
Which could be a hybrid,
Right.
correct.
could be anything.
4 is something else.
And we're known.
4 is something else.
Joe, do you understand that?
Yes, I do. I do think though that with the will of the group that I will take a stab at preparing some document that highlights the differences and similarities in the two proposals, one put forth by Tess and one put forth by Todd. I think that work, if I could get that out to people before the meeting and if people could be thinking about it, like we can extend the meeting, but this is a hard topic to get through quickly. So I guess what I'm saying is there's going to be pre-homework for
Okay.
the council and the committee to work on, and then we'll be prepared at the meeting to maybe move that yes or no, the way Todd said, and then to dive into these centers. Does that make sense?
I think so. Tess?
I was kind of viewing it a little bit separate. We have the work with the policies. I think there's a lot of favorability towards Todd's and conversations around it. And then the other issue for me on the table is that I'm viewing this as a very urgent situation. So if we were to program and grants, come up with a process for an emergent funding, and then assuming that takes another month, and then before you know it, we run into that period of time where there's, correct me if I'm wrong, a freeze where we cannot enter any new contracts
Correct.
towards the end of the year. And then we're looking at summer. And then we have these centers that have likely closed.
Yeah, there is a sense of urgency, Joe, in regard to that. I think we can do that.
I guess,
Go ahead.
I think it's just flipping the agenda, Joe. If we get to the process stuff, great, if we sort out a policy, but the very first item is just solving this recovery center. What's the next step for recovery centers outside of the big picture process?
Yeah.
Do we want to do A, B, or C? Maybe that will lead us to our other process, but it's just, we need to vote at the next council meeting on how much money, if any, we're giving the recovery centers. And if we have any rules that will govern who gets what.
I think even if it ended up being a no, that information, I think that.
Yeah, and then they know, it's a no. It's not wait 7 months for a grant process to come out to whatever yeah.
Yeah, not that they're even expecting it or we've solicited any information. I think it's just something that
Be responsive.
we need to be, we're a group that is aware of the fiscal realities and whether or not people are getting contracts. And as we've all said, RCCs are a big component of the makeup of services.
Huh?
I think the
Yeah, so-
finance,
You know,
I think the finance committee has to, by the March MRC meeting, have a number of how much money we have available now that is not already spent, essentially, is not already determined to go to a grant next year. And how much money we will have available next year. Because if we're going to spend $3 million now, we know what is that going to do to our next year's funding. But I think we need to get some hard numbers from Finance Committee right away.
so Daryl, if you can work with Deb
Yep.
and make sure she knows that, because the next finance committee meeting, I believe, is the 20th of February. Good point, we can do that.
And what Melissa just said about kind of flipping the agenda, I'm fine with. The only thing, and I'm totally fine with this, I'm just gonna say this, and I can't believe I'm saying this is totally not the way I roll, but I think then we're back funding things without sort of a process. So I think they're both important, but I think that these programs are facing closure. So, but I just say that out loud again because I think that's a little bit of a sticking point. But I'm fine to flip the agenda and move it as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I don't like, no one likes doing that without a procedure, but maybe the procedure will get written as we look at this, who knows? As we look at the process, I don't know.
Because we move things so quick. We move things so quickly.
We do, we're just quick here at the Recovery Council, quick. But again, and part of the issue is the recovery centers know it, the state knows it, some point in time, we all have to have a discussion on sustainability of these peer centers that are saving lives. And it's exactly what they're doing, in very rural areas. And so I think we're remiss if we don't try to do something, we'll figure out what that is. But I really thank you all for having this conversation, and we will get all you the information you need, hopefully to vote on something by March. Are we making it any clearer for you, Jess?
I've got solid next. I'm adding to those next steps
Yeah.
to clarify with the 2 centers that we believe are not operational.
Okay.
So they're included in it.
Yeah. And I know some of them may have other, I know they all had budgets, but some of them I know have received a little pockets of money here and there, so they may not need all they requested, I don't know, but I know Save a Life got some money. So, not much.
We'll send this presentation out to everyone, put it with the minutes on the website.
All right, well, thank you very much for this conversation. Chastity, what else do you have on your list? In our last, what do we got here?
We officially have Carol signed contract. She's gonna start March 1st instead of the 15th for scheduling reasons. Just broadly, scheduling reasons. And with that, so everyone knows, this is gonna add a wrench in March planning. Also, I am away the 2nd through I come back to work the day before our March meeting. I'll take my computer while I'm away and occasionally check in, but if people were amenable, knowing we're working on that, Carol's starting, we have the option, we could move our meeting to the following week to give some time to work on some things and get Carol started. But it would have to be on Friday to have the room unless we did Zoom only. If not, we'll still do the meeting, just so everyone's on the same page
Right,
on the regular
what
day.
Friday?
The 20th,
Following, yeah.
or the 13th.
Oh, that's what I'm asking.
Sorry, is this the strategy meeting or the?
This is
Our regular meeting.
This regular meeting.
That would be the same time, just move it back a week and a day.
So give me, please, the number. Can you?
Move it to the 20th, still at 1:30.
Probably
To
wouldn't be able to do
Friday.
it then.
March 20th.
Tuesday now.
Can we do a quick poll to the entire council? Just some sort of doodle poll to see how
Or
many.
thumbs up or down. We'll make either work.
The
20th,
20th,
I'm gone that week, not that it matters, but I'm gone.
you golfing.
I'm gonna watch my granddaughter play softball. I'm supposed to go.
Never. All right. How many people would be able to make, if we cancel the meeting on the 12th, make a meeting on March 20th? Can you please raise your hand? Thumbs up, raise hands.
I'm looking at my calendar.
Joe, is that your hand?
No, that's
This little- I'm seeing this
That's
little
my
hand
hand.
up here. Okay, so
Make it work.
Might be able to zoom in.
But just for clarification, this is, the rationale for this is to give a little bit more breathing room for you getting back and Carol.
she's away for a week.
Okay. So how many people do we lose in that transition?
Todd and I think I don't know, we don't know about Liz.
Right.
I think it's much easier if we just do a doodle, doodle poll everybody if they have that time and we'll make up from there. Right now, we'll leave it as is, but just send it out to everybody and give them. Because we've got people that are missing here and see if we can get a quorum to move it. And don't give people a lot of time to answer the doodle, tell them they have like a couple days to answer it.
We wouldn't be able to do it before I leave and Carol starts anyways.
Correct.
That's fine.
Correct.
We're gonna send a doodle for the option.
So do we, so.
No, but she'll be like introducing.
Yeah.
Starting for.
Okay, let's try to see if people can do the 20th, and we'll go from there. If not, we'll just keep it.
Yeah, if we keep it the same day.
We'll prop you
I'll
up,
be here either way.
you'll bring it up. And then she doesn't get stuck in the airport somewhere, plane involved.
Is this your Denver trip?
No, we're taking my daughter and a friend to Florida. So,
Look at y'all, you didn't meet up in Florida.
off week.
I'm not going to Florida.
All right,
I'm going to Austin, Texas. What else
Otherwise-
do you have?
I think that's it. We
We all set?
certainly utilized everyone's time.
You got something, Tom?
Okay. Where are we with this strategy meeting or the retreat or whatever we called it, our strategic planning?
Well, we just signed the contract, so you can't have a conversation, you couldn't have a conversation until we had a contract,
Okay.
so.
So it's, the first part is more, Carol will do individualized stuff. And that'll inform the second half, so I want the later part to decide if we need to do a longer meeting, retreat style or not. But
I guess I'm just, the only thing I'm not clear on and it would be helpful for me is, I will also be on vacay. Prefer to maintain those boundaries, but if it's about strategy stuff and it's not stuff I can dial into later and watch, then I'll wanna adjust vacay to be there on Zoom. So I'm not going, I'm going to Missouri. How thrilling is that?
Show me stay.
It's more expensive to fly to Missouri than it is to fly to Mexico for me.
for strategy stuff,
That's really depressing.
There's no easy way to get there, that's why.
That's right, it's the middle of the
Can't get there
country.
from here.
Anyway, yeah, so if a sense of that agenda can come out.
Well, we'll have it, we have to have an agenda 14 days in advance, so you'll know.
it does get noticed, even if it doesn't go to you.
And as you know, we're always taped, so you never have to.
Well,
miss a
that's it,
meeting.
I'm super happy to
You
die.
never have to miss a meeting, you always have.
Didactic.
Is there any other business to come before the council?
Can I say one thing really quick?
Yeah.
That's not council business, but,
I have volunteered to assist Gordon with the summit. And I just wanted to make that clear that that is something I'm volunteering to do on my time outside of anything related to the council. I don't want, in the past, other people have raised concerns about whether the council is supporting that. And obviously supporting that work, but not financially supporting that. So I just want to make that clear that that is something that I will be doing on my own, so. Thank you.
And Elizabeth was so conscientious, she called and asked to make sure that was okay, and I think it's a good use for her. I'm sure that Gordon is appreciative. But we want to make sure that that's very clear that we support certainly in concept with the governor's conference, but we're not financially supporting it. So, or staffing it. All right, if no other business, I'll drive careful going home, and it's still light, and it's what, 4:30? 4:27 and it's light out, okay. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.